This is Henry Frederick of Headline Surfer, and we're here for our newest edition of the Roundtable. To my left is Sally Gillis, who has sallygillis.net. She's a blogger in Ormond Beach. To her left is Stan Escudero. He has a blog called The Guidepost on Headline Surfer, and he's the executive committee chair of the Republican Party of Volusia County. To my right is Dana Dougherty Swanson, a recent delegate to the Republican National Convention in Tampa. This is the Roundtable. So the topic we're going to discuss today is singular in two segments: debates, Volusia County and national. And we might throw in an add-on at the end about what's going on in the world, which is your expertise, Stan, being a foreign ambassador.
That's the rumor.
Yes. So let's talk first in our opening segment about debates in Volusia County. As of today, Saturday, September 29th, there are about 38 days, if my calculations are correct, for the elections of November 6th. And we are having a very difficult time getting candidates from either party, incumbent or challenger, to go in front of a live audience and answer questions. Stan, why is that?
Well, first, I guess I would say you're not alone in that, Henry. As far as I know, you're the only institution in Volusia County which is actively pursuing debates.
Right, in the general election.
In the general election, yes, exactly. I don't really understand why that is either, but I can only assume that you're dealing with a combination of fear and confidence, in the sense that some of the candidates believe they're going to win and don't want to take the risk of debating an opponent who might somehow divert the course that they see toward victory. And some of the candidates, perhaps on both sides, are afraid that if they enter a debate, they might make a mistake. Normally in situations like this, the challengers push harder for debates than the incumbents, and I would suppose that's the case this year. But we'll just have to see. I mean, both candidates have to understand that they need to debate, that it is in their interest to debate. You would like to think that they would debate and want to debate so that the people will understand what they stand for and why they're running and what they will do for them or for the county if they get elected. But sadly, most politicians don't take that point of view. They take a rather more narrow, my election is the most important county interest first.
It's funny, Sally, because in the primary, of course, Headline Surfer was the first media outlet in Volusia County to even put on a debate, and we did 8 of them one day at the Brandon Center in Louisiana Beach.
Remember.
It was a marathon, day long. It was just a crazy day. And there seemed to be a lot of enthusiasm. Only 2 incumbents didn't show. One who said she wasn't coming ahead of time, and that was Ann McFall, Supervisor of Elections, and she won the primary by a landslide anyway. And the other was Diane Matusik, the clerk of the court, who told me more recently that it wasn't communicated to her that there was a debate. I never did get to speak to her directly, and that's something she said she needs to work on in terms of communication. I take her at her word. But with that said, we had full participation. You remember, you were there with me. And we had a couple hundred people throughout the course of about 250 throughout the course of the day. And the candidates are pretty frank about, reacting to the questions, even though they were very general. Does the public lose because the candidates want to play it safe?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at somebody head-to-head with an opponent, and you let the audience ask the questions that they want the answers to, not some safe softball that the host might send out to them, then you get a real idea of how these people are going to behave, how they act, how they think, and what their real purpose is for running. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, it's not serving the public interest. It's serving their own interest or the special interests who back them. And that's true of all elections everywhere. But the public is the loser when there are no debates. And that's a very selfish view by the candidates to deprive us of that.
And Dana, being someone who was at the Republican National Convention in Tampa, and of course 4 years before that, and was it Denver or Minneapolis? Denver was the Democratic one. You see the advantage of having these candidates talk to a live audience about where they stand with things, even if it's rehearsed or even if it's from a speech. Whereas if they're just going on like a radio show for 5 minutes, or they're doing some segment for a news article, it's sort of watered down. How much of an advantage is it for the voters to hear and see people engage in debate, especially if it's online in a video format?
Well, it's very important, because the thing is with debates is that you get to really start to see the candidate's true personality, especially in tough situations, tough questions. You get to see what their true principles are versus the stock information that you just see that's put out in public, photoshopped pictures and slick ads. You get to see a person's true personality. And it also, I always like it when I'm knowing that a candidate is pushing for the debate of the opposition, because it's showing that they want to really put themselves out there for the public to see. I mean, I really want to see, in my neck of the woods, I have the county council race between Pat Northey and Rich Gailey. I would love to see a debate between the two of them and really see and have the public see what are the differences, what are the similarities, because I think we need to know that for our county council, because Volusia is the second highest taxed. So, I mean, people need to know, not just the pretty ads, they need to know the person's true personality.
Well, I think it's important also for our viewing audience and readership to understand that we are very heavily involved in this campaign in 2012. Most of the candidates are advertising with us exclusively. They have answered questions in a limited fashion, or the ones who have participated in our debates in the primary, and we had 3 already in the general election in Oak Hill. You know, because we're small and we have limited funding, we can get the best situation for ourselves, because to me, it's not as important as where it's being held, but having the function in front of you and then being able to put it online for thousands, literally thousands to see, with no borders. And people throughout Central Florida and even the country are looking at these videos, and especially in races for Congress, state Senate, state representative, U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, and even president. You get different points of view and you get different ideas about what people are saying, and I think it also has an impact on how media reacts to what they're saying. So with that said, Stan, why is this election I'm getting more of a middleman, consultants, paid consultants, where I can't have access directly to the candidates? I have to go through consultants who talk to me on Facebook. Tell us what you want. How big do you want your ad to be? Tell us what what do you need? Why can't I talk to the candidate directly? Why is that?
Well, that's part of what the consultant sees as his job.
Are they gatekeepers?
Sort
Are
of,
they
yes.
protectionists?
Yes, sort of, yes. I think the consultant sees it as his job not only to direct the campaign of the candidate, tell him what to say, where to appear, when to appear, and how to respond to questions that might appear in the press if he has to, but also to protect the candidate from the media. Any consultant will tell you and will tell his candidate that the media is not his friend. The media is an adversary, and what they're looking to do is play gotcha. And so the consultant will do everything he can to keep the media away from the candidate in a way which does not give the consultant the opportunity to say that the candidate is somehow afraid to talk about this, that, or the other. So he will try to exercise as much control as he possibly can over every appearance the candidate makes, with whom he speaks, what questions he will answer, whether the questions are provided in advance in writing, whether the answers can be given in writing, whether or not the thing is recorded, and if so, by one side or by both sides. All kinds of questions of conditions and control arise to any consultant who is worth his salt, who is doing the job of getting his candidate elected and protecting that candidate, getting as much good known about him as he can and keeping as much bad known about him away from the people.
Sally, how is this any different than a spokesman for county government talking to the media instead of the elected officials themselves?
Well,
and giving you everything you don't want.
Yeah, I've recently had some real interesting experience with that, where I'm speaking to the Daytona Communications Director instead of getting the information I've requested under the Freedom of Sunshine.
Which government agency is this?
Volusia County, where else? But I was thinking how interesting it would be to have, not a debate, but to get a candidate in front of us, and we'll ask them some questions. If the other person doesn't want to come, put an empty chair there with a name on it and say, so-and-so didn't want to come. But at least that would give the chance to the person who wants to debate and wants to get his message out an opportunity to do so.
Well, I think you know from our brand of journalism that it's pretty much out there. It's as transparent as can be. You come to our debate, you get nothing in advance. If you don't know what the questions are going to be, then you shouldn't be running for office. And as we've done, we've had the name of the candidate written on a cardboard placard in front of the seat, and if they're not there, the name tag is there. We went through this in Oak Hill, where we did a debate for mayor. Now, in Oak Hill, there's a big, it's like a post-mortem on the demise of the Oak Hill Police Department. It was a big scandal, and the sheriff's office is now running it. And one of the candidates, who's the vice mayor, was supporting the former police chief who had this background with cocaine and a big mess. And the other guy actually pushed to get the police department shut down. So they're both kind of bad guys in their own way, depending on who in the city, wants them or doesn't want them. What is that? How does that go with you, where you have a candidate that doesn't show up in their own house?
It looks bad to me. I mean, because like I said, especially with the debate, the public.
Calling in sick at the last minute, I'm sick.
Yeah, even if you're sick, show up and say, hey, guys, I'm not feeling well, so I need to make this brief or whatnot, but I'm here because you are important, because I'm running for your vote, and I am here for you.
And that's what they should all be doing.
In this case, the candidate was out that later that night on a social event, and there was no real definition of what being sick meant. I didn't feel well. That wasn't like a broken leg or gallbladder surgery or a migraine that was debilitating or...
Well, we've all overindulged on occasion, Henry, but when that happens, you need to fight your way through it if you're a candidate, and especially if you have a debate scheduled in your own home.
Unless you have a hospital bill saying, I've been in the hospital, or someone said, taken from a hospital bed. But when I ran for a delegate for Minneapolis, we had a CD caucus. I had to go there. I was running a fever, I was sick as a dog, and I still drove to Palatka because I knew if I didn't do this, I was not going to get voted on for a delegate position. So it was important to me, and I did enough energy to do what I needed to do, and then I drove home and crashed for the rest of the weekend because I was running about well over 100 fever. So
what I find kind of amusing is these candidates they schedule themselves with their consultants ahead of time to go all these little chicken dinner events where there's 20 people showing up. Yet when it comes to something like a debate, we'll get back to you, they have to understand that you have to plan. You have to get a venue, you have to get multiple people to agree to be there at a certain time, and we have to produce it.
yeah, but chicken dinners are softball. People ask you softball questions. A debate means it's a hardball, and that's what you.
Sure.
A lot
That's
of
what you need to
candidates are
prepare
It's a
for.
afraid of.
question of risk avoidance. Henry.
Yes.